Balik mga kapuso sa GMA Regional TV Live talag sa unta karong buntaga makauban nato mga kapuso Chinese Ambassador to the Philippines, His Excellency Ambassador Huang Xilian. Good morning, Mr. Ambassador.
Good morning, Nico. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Ambassador.
Nice to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, especially to our viewers here in Cebu and the Visayas. Mr. Ambassador, this year marks the 45th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic relations between China and the Philippines. What major improvements, Mr. Ambassador, did we see in recent years?
Thank you for your question. Yes, this is a very important year when we are celebrating the 45th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. And under the leadership of President Xi Jinping and President Duterte, our relationship have witnessed that kind of significant progress in the past few years. And on people-to-people exchanges, we have witnessed remarkable increase. In the past few years, last year, the number of Chinese tourists to this country stood at more than 1.7 million people. And so that's greatly promotes understanding between our two countries.
Unfortunately, right now, we're under a public health emergency. What is the impact, Ambassador Wang, of this pandemic right now between the China and Philippine trade, of course, China being the Philippines' top trading partner?
One is that, because of the pandemic, because of the kind of community quarantine, and because of the closure of factories and commercial, institutions, the trade, your export to China and your import from China, have slowed down a little bit in the past half a year. And second is that, because of the kind of policy, Chinese tourists are now not able to come to this country. So, the number of the visitors have reduced, drastically in the past half a year. And also, Philippines is a very important part of the regional and global supply chain. And because of that, the kind of role as part of the supply chain has also been affected to some extent. And, more specifically, the kind of commercial personnel who work on those projects in this country, they are also affected because they're not able to come. So, some of the projects, the pace of the development have been slowed down. But luckily, that most of the projects have resumed their work already, and at about 80% to 90% of their capacity. So we are working very closely with our Philippine friends to make sure that our trade and economic cooperation will not be affected seriously due to the pandemic.
Maybe unknown to many Filipinos, Ambassador Huang, especially during the early stage of the pandemic, of the outbreak here in the Philippines, China has been really helping the country and has been extending assistance, especially us here in the Visayas and Mindanao. Can you tell us more on the extended help that China has given to the country?
For the Chinese government, we have provided several batches of medical supplies, including testing kits, PPEs, almost 2 million PPEs, 250,000 test kits, and a lot of other medical supplies. And actually, those supplies are still flowing in. As you know, that we send a medical team, the first medical team. We have sent to our neighbors, and that they were here for 2 weeks. They share everything with your government and your people. Since we paid heavy costs already, we don't want our friend to pay the same cost. So we try to share our experience with you.
Ambassador, let's talk about the progress of China's developing a vaccine for COVID-19. Can you tell us more about this, the update on this?
And as for China, we are being one of the leading developers in the world. Now, out of the, about 6 vaccines, candidate vaccines, which have entered the third phase clinical trial. 4 of them are Chinese developers. Some time ago, when our president talked to your president Duterte, our president have reassured that as a very close friend and close neighbor, once we succeed in developing a vaccine, we of course will, consider Philippines as the priority to provide the Chinese vaccine.
Ambassador Huang, with regards to the disputed territories in the South China Sea, what is the status of the consultation and the code of conduct among ASEAN countries, including the Philippines, Ambassador?
Okay, yes. I should say that it's very normal for neighbors to have differences. China and Philippines like a neighbor or even like a family members. It's very natural for us to have some differences. But what is important is that we need to handle the differences properly, not to allow the differences to be in the way of our bilateral relations. And we have agreed to solve the differences through peaceful means, through bilateral negotiations.
But under this COC, Mr. Ambassador, or Code of Conduct, what are the guarantees that the Philippines will not be at a disadvantageous position with regards to the claim also on these disputed islands?
The COC is a very important effort to work out a COC. It is nothing about document to address the issue itself, to solve the differences. But it's a document, a binding document. We look forward to it to be a binding document to regulate the behavior of all parties concerned to, maintain the stability and tranquility in this region.
In your more than 8 months of assignment here in the Philippines, how do you find the country and the people?
Yes, I love this country. I feel that the people here are warm, optimistic, and very talented.
Your favorite Filipino dish so far, Ambassador Huang?
Yes, I enjoy my daily Chinese food. I also love Filipino food, the dishes here. And there are quite some dishes which are so impressive to me, just like in terms of sweet, halo-halo, delicious, and also adobo, the meat, adobo, also, that's they're nice foods, and also lechon, that's kind of, that's roasted pig. There's some similar roast pig in China, the same style, and there are quite a lot, even some kind of, Chinese-style Filipino foods, all very impressive, very delicious.
My favorites as well, Mr. Ambassador. How about your first Filipino word that you have learned? And how's your Filipino vocabulary so far, Mr. Ambassador?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, I can speak Malay. So I have found that in Tagalog, there are some vocabularies quite similar to Malay. I always say salamat to Filipino friends, and also say kaibigan.
Kaibigan.
Kaibigan, and also nowadays there is a very popular and heated word, that we call it bayanihan. Bayanihan, right?
Wow.
Right.
And that is what we need, especially during this time of the pandemic.
Yes.
Finally, Mr. Ambassador, your message to our viewers, especially here in the Visayas, in Central and Eastern Visayas.
I wish that this country will win over the fight against the pandemic at an early date, so that I can travel freely to meet with friends from Philippines.
Wow. In Cebu, we say, daghang salamat. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Chinese Ambassador to the Philippines, His Excellency Huang Xilian. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you. Salamat.
Salamat.